Hello, everyone, and welcome to another edition of the SimNFL show. Real talk about fake sports. I am your host and commissioner. You can call me Pierce. Today, we are discussing all of the Week 16 action of the 2026 season of the Pro Football Sim over at SimSN. If you're unfamiliar, come check us out on the website and on Discord. We would love to have you. So, as always, we will start with our stats and summaries from each of the Week 16 games, culminating in my choices for the Players of the Week. We'll do a quick injury update, check on the Week 16 NFL standings, and then we're going to continue our ongoing feature with extension offers. We'll see what's been accepted, provide any details that owners have provided, and then look at some big-name players who are still negotiating. This is week 2 out of 8, so anyone that declines is still able to be signed later. And week 3, we will get our first possible free agent list as players that decline 3 times will be eligible for free agency if they don't get tagged. But that'll be for next time. Right now we will just cover current offers. And then we will end with our preview for Week 17, the penultimate week of the 2026 regular season. So let's go ahead and get started. On Thursday night, there was a great game between the Bears and the Chargers, with the Bears ultimately coming out on top 34-27. The Chargers scored on their opening drive. Aguilera found Richard McGuire for 18 and 16-yard gains. That set up Aguilera for a touchdown run from 2 yards out to open the scoring. Then a Gerald Lewis interception to Benjamin Silva would set the Chargers up with great field position again. Harrison Rodriguez would run in the touchdown 4 plays later from 4 yards out to make it 14-0. Later in the first quarter, it was Aguilera's turn to throw an interception to Rafael Caceres, and that led to an Alex Harris touchdown run for the Bears, closing the gap to 14-7. In the second quarter, another Aguilera interception to Caceres again set up a Bears field goal, making it 14-10. But then the Chargers respond with a 63-play drive in 10 plays, ending in another Harrison Rodriguez touchdown, this one from a yard out, to make it 21-10. Bears, though, would respond in kind. Harris ran it for 16, and then Gerald Lewis had 4 straight runs for 48 yards, and that set up Stanley Segovia for a 2-yard touchdown run, to make it 21-17. In the second half now, going to the third quarter, Lewis had a couple more big runs on a Bears drive, 38 and 14-yard gains. Then Segovia had another touchdown run, this one from 17 yards out, and the extra point would tie the game at 24. Going to the fourth quarter now, Chargers had the ball up by 3, but Aguilera threw an interception to Caceres at the Bears' 44-yard line. Then 6 plays later, Gerald Lewis hit his tight end Nick Evans for a 35-yard touchdown, put the Bears in front 31-27 with just 4 minutes to go. And then on the Chargers' first play from scrimmage on the next drive, Aguilera threw his 4th interception of the day, all of them to Rafael Caceres, and Chicago would run the clock down to about 1:27 before kicking a field goal to make it 34-27. Chargers got the ball back with one last chance. Aguilera hit Garcia for a 31-yard gain to get them into Bears territory, but they failed to get any farther in 2 plays, and then the clock ran out with the ball in the Bears' 40-yard line. So Gerald Lewis had 156 passing yards on the score, 116 rushing yards. Stanley Segovia had 2 touchdowns. But the big story, Rafael Caceres, 2 pass breakups and 4 interceptions of Aguilera to help lead the Bears to victory. Bears have their 6th consecutive win now, which is tied for the best current streak in the league. Bears are all the way back up past 500 now after starting the season 2-7. Moving to the Sunday games now, the Jets beat the Patriots 37-17. Jets' first scoring drive was 46 yards in 10 plays. They had good field position after a solid punt return, and that one ended with Jan Peters, a 7-yard touchdown run to open the scoring. Then in the second quarter, the Jets ran the ball 11 times on a 12-play drive that covered 74 yards. That one ended with Michael Elias having a 1-yard touchdown run to extend the lead to 14-3. Then in their first drive of the third quarter, Rashard Ward of the Patriots had carries of 19, 15, and 12. Then Oliveros hit Morales for a 19-yard gain, and then Oliveros would carry the ball the last 2 yards into the end zone for a touchdown, and then run it in himself for the 2-point conversion as well to make it 14-11. But the Jets would respond a 13-play drive, which also had 11 runs in it, including Elias going for 24, and that ended with a Jesse Knoll touchdown run from 6 yards out, putting the lead back to 10. Then in the fourth quarter, Peters had a 30-yard run, and that set up a Knoll touchdown pass to Elias from 5 yards out. Jets would miss the extra point, but they would still be up 27-14 after that score. Then in the final 2 minutes, Patriots would fail a fourth down deep in their own territory, and then Jan Peters would run a touchdown from 24 yards out to close the scoring. Total of 4 rushing touchdowns from the Jets in this game, 1 from Knoll, 2 from Peters, 1 from Elias, to lead the Jets to a big victory over the Patriots, holding Michael Oliveros to 111 yards passing, 34 yards and a score rushing. Jacksonville beat Tampa Bay by a final score of 31-21. Tampa Bay actually scored first. They had a great punt return by Richard Surgis down to the Jacksonville 19-yard line. 5 plays later, Kingery found Max Smith for a 2-yard touchdown. Then in the second quarter, after Tampa Bay failed a fourth down attempt from near midfield, Rivera hit Madruga for 16, and then found Jake Bolden for a 23-yard touchdown pass. That gives Jacksonville the lead 13-7 at that point. But Tampa Bay would respond. Max Smith breaking a 26-yard run, set up a Kingery touchdown pass to his fullback Flaherty from 4 yards out, giving the Bucs the 1-point lead at the half. It was 14-13. Then in the third quarter, Rivera threw to Hugh Kahn for a 40-yard gain. He hit Bolden for 13, and that drive ended with a 1-yard touchdown pass to Madruga. Jacksonville would miss the extra point, though, so that would make it 22-14 at that point. Then later in the third quarter, Tampa Bay was pinned at their own 8-yard line after an excellent punt, and Kingery got sacked by Jeffrey Amend in the end zone for a safety. Jacksonville taking the long way to 24 points to extend their lead. But after the free kick, the Buccaneers would get a stop. They would return the ensuing punt all the way to the Jaguars' 45-yard line, and that would set up Max Smith for a 21-yard touchdown run, with the extra point made it just 24-21 at that point. After a trade of punts, for Jacksonville, Rivera found his tight end Perez for gains of 17 and 19 yards. That set up a Hugh Kahn touchdown run from 4 yards out, putting Jacksonville back up 10 with about 5:41 to go in the game. Jacksonville would hold on. Their defense would keep the Buccaneers from scoring on their last 2 drives to secure the win. James Rivera, 43 of 54 in this game for over 400 yards and 2 passing touchdowns, including 136 yards to his tight end J. Perez. Max Smith had 105 yards from scrimmage and 2 touchdowns to lead the Buccaneers. The Rams and Raiders played in a shootout with the Rams winning 41-23. No surprise, the Rams scored first, though it was on an Anthony Larry punt return of 59 yards to give the Rams the early lead. Then the second quarter, Avila threw an interception to Joel Campos, and the Vegas Raiders drove 36 yards for a touchdown, ending with an Irving 3-yard touchdown run, putting the Vegas up 10-7 at that point. Late in the second quarter, the Rams drove to the Vegas 27-yard line, but an Avila interception on a screen to the defensive end, Nicholas Salerno, killed any chance of scoring before the half. That happened with under a minute to go. So Vegas went into halftime with the lead, but the Rams would get back in front in the third quarter. Avila finding Dawson for 19, and then Anthony Larry for 20 yards, and then connecting again with Larry on a 17-yard touchdown, put the Rams on top 14-10. After a defensive stop, Avila went 6 of 8 on their next drive for 71 yards, including another 13-yard touchdown pass to Larry, making the lead 21-10. But Vegas would respond with James Blank taking the ensuing kickoff 99 yards for a touchdown. They failed a 2-point conversion, though, so that made it 21-16. Rams would get the ball back and go down the field themselves. Avila hitting a bomb to Anthony Larry, he would hit Anthony Larry for a 56-yard gain, but the drive would stall there, and the Rams would get a field goal. Raiders went 3 and out, and then the next drive, Avila went 6 of 6 for 66 passing yards. Then he hit Larry for the third touchdown, 8 yards out, making it 31-16 Rams on top. Raiders went 3 and out again. Rams promptly drove 72 yards in 11 plays. Dawson getting the touchdown that time on a 2-yard run, making it 38-16. Then later, after a Rams field goal, James Blank had another phenomenal return. He actually went out of bounds at the 1-yard line, so he did not get his second return touchdown. And it took the Raiders 4 plays to score from the 1-yard line, but score they did with a Milner touchdown run. But that would just make it a little bit closer as the Rams win by 18 in this one. Anthony Larry was the hero of the game, 184 yards on 12 catches, including 3 touchdowns, plus his special teams touchdown. Carlos Bostic had 4 sacks. Not to be outdone, James Blank had 2 kick returns of 90 yards or more. One was a touchdown, one he went out of bounds at the 1-yard line. But ultimately, it's the Rams who put up 41 and come away with the win here. The Titans and Ravens played to a close game, with the Titans coming out on top at the last second. In the first quarter, the Ravens blocked a punt. Baltimore had a punt blocked by the Titans that would lead to a Titans field goal. Richard Yob from 51 yards out. That was his long of the day. Then still in the first quarter, a savage interception by Adonis President was returned to the Ravens' 19-yard line. That set up another Yob field goal. In the second quarter, the Titans were able to put an offensive drive together. Outman found Joseph Kale for a 21-yard gain. Then Outman ran it for 28 himself. All of that would lead to yet another Yob field goal and a 9-0 lead. Baltimore, in response, would finally get on the board. Savage went 7 of 10 for 80 yards on his next drive, and that would still not end in the end zone. Ravens would get a short field goal. Go into the half down 9-3. In the third quarter, one of the big plays of the day, Davin Cozart of the Titans had a 47-yard touchdown run to open things up, make it 16-3. But DeAndre Wieters would match that with a 52-yard run later in the third quarter, and then he would finish that drive running it in from a yard out for the touchdown, making it 16-10. In the fourth quarter now, the Titans, Ray Thompson, returned a punt all the way to the Baltimore 19-yard line. That led to another Yob field goal, 19-10. They would get the ball back, but then Outman would throw an interception to Jeremy Cabral, which would turn into a Ravens field goal from 44 yards out, making it 19-13. And then Baltimore would get the ball back with 3:03 to go, down by 6. Wieters would run for 16. There was a defensive pass interference called on President for another 15. Ultimately, Wieters would finish that drive with a 16-yard touchdown run. The extra point put the Ravens on top 20-19 with 1:07 to go. But on the third play of the ensuing drive, Will Outman took a power run 53 yards down the sideline, only getting stopped at the Ravens' 5, and the Titans had seconds left, which was enough to kick the field goal, Yob's 5th of the day, and the Titans came out on top 22-20. So Outman 89 yards passing, 82 rushing, including that big 53-yarder there at the end of the game. Richard Yob, 5 field goals and an extra point to lead all scorers. DeAndre Wieters, 128 yards on just 15 touches, 2 scores for him. An excellent day for the Ravens, but they fall short as the Titans pull the rabbit out of a hat on the last drive. Kansas City and Denver had a very interesting, very offensive back-and-forth game, which unfortunately was marred by some questionable officiating at the end of the game. But we'll go back to the very beginning, where Denver scored on their first drive with a 40-yard touchdown run from Thomas Gezik. The Chiefs would respond with James Carter having a 53-yard touchdown run to equalize at 7 apiece. Later in the first, Chop found Ellsworth for 25, and then again for a 7-yard touchdown with the Chiefs on top. Denver would respond in the second quarter, London finding Stelly for a 36-yard gain, and then passing to Gezik for a 14-yard touchdown. That put the Broncos up 17-14. Kansas City would drive down to the Broncos' 26-yard line, but Chop would throw an interception to Keith Remy, which would end that drive without points. And then Denver would go on, taking the ball from there to go on a 64-yard drive in 16 plays, including a conversion on 3rd and 14 with a handoff to Ryan Johnson that went for 16. Ultimately, London sneaked the ball across from a yard out to score a touchdown on that 16-play drive. Going to the third quarter now, on a Denver drive, London hit Tyler Geese for a 44-yard gain to set up a short Broncos field goal. Then on Denver's next drive, London hit Gezik for 34. Gezik would run it for 42, and then ultimately end that drive with a touchdown run from a yard out. And that made it 34-14, Denver opening up a 20-point lead. But the Chiefs would respond, Carter breaking off a 60-yard run, and then Chop finding Ellsworth for an 8-yard touchdown to cut into the lead. Denver, on their next drive, Thomas Gezik would break away another great run, a 38-yarder, to set up another field goal. And then in the fourth quarter, Chop threw an interception to Edwin Carter, giving the ball to the Broncos in good field position. Broncos got to the Kansas City 48-yard line, but they would go for it on fourth down, would not get it. So the Chiefs would get the ball back near midfield, and James Carter would end that drive emphatically with a 41-yard touchdown run. They didn't go for two, which is odd because that would have made it an 8-point game. They tried to kick and missed it anyway. So at that point, it was 37-27 in the Broncos' favor. But the Broncos would go 3 and out, and then Amino would run it for 37, leading to a Chop touchdown pass to Daniel Ellsworth from 26 yards out, cutting the lead down to 3. Kansas City got another stop. They drove down to Denver's 39-yard line, but facing down potentially a long field goal to maybe tie it, Chop threw an interception to Keith Remy, Remy's second of the day. But London would gift them a pick right back, this one to Jen Miller, and the Chiefs were back in business again. Now, here's where it gets kind of dicey. It appeared, so Chiefs have the ball, good field position, down by 3. Now, it appeared that the Broncos defense had stopped them on a 3rd and 11, but then Remy was called for defensive pass interference, which gave the Chiefs an automatic first down. Chop would take advantage. He would hit Ellsworth for gains of 20 and 12, and then Michael Walker for a 6-yard touchdown. That put the Chiefs up 41-37 with 1:15 to go. But the Broncos weren't done. London hit Gezik for a 48-yard gain, then another completion to him for 17. That put the Broncos on the Chiefs' 18-yard line, needing a touchdown with just 5 seconds to go. They had time for one final play. There was a throw into the end zone. Originally, it looked like Jan Miller was going to get called for defensive pass interference on Raymond Stelly, which would have given the Broncos a single untimed down to make that game-winning touchdown, but the flag was picked up. The game ended, and the Chiefs upset the Broncos 41-37. So a fantastic performance that featured 8 plays of 40 yards or more, both offenses going absolutely nuts. Unfortunately, ended up being partially decided by officials in the end. David Chop, 17 of 28, 193 yards, 4 touchdowns, 3 interceptions, and a fumble. Peter London, 307 passing yards, a touchdown, a pick, 61 yards rushing, and a touchdown. Thomas Gezik, over 260 yards on just 20 touches. 3 touchdowns and a fumble for him. 2 picks for Keith Remy, 2 touchdowns for James Carter on 218 rushing yards. Daniel Ellswick, 3 touchdowns on 148 receiving yards. Just big numbers all around, and a big finish with the Chiefs handing the Broncos only their second loss of the year. As for the rest of the Week 16 scoreboard, Carolina beats Atlanta 34-13. Link was 40 of 38 for 507 passing yards, 2 touchdowns, and 2 picks. New Orleans blanked the Indianapolis Colts 23-0. Okoye Landrum was 28 of 39 for 231 passing yards. Washington beat Buffalo 36-16. Morrison was 38 of 51 for 427 yards, 2 touchdowns, and a pick. Cincinnati blew out Houston 31-3. Cincinnati's defense all combined had 6 sacks, 5 interceptions, and forced and recovered 2 fumbles. So 7 takeaways and 6 sacks on the day for Cincinnati as they hold Houston to 3. Green Bay beat the New York Giants 37-10. Joseph Garibay 30 of 38, 324 yards, 2 touchdowns, and 3 picks. Pittsburgh beat Minnesota 29-14. Morris was 21 of 29 for 216 yards and a passing touchdown. Also 19 runs for 84 yards and another score on the ground. Seattle blanked San Francisco 29-0. Jeremiah West 27 of 38, 330 yards, 2 touchdowns, 2 picks. Philadelphia flew by Arizona 38-3. Moncrief was 22 of 36 for 241 yards, 3 touchdowns, and 2 picks. Miami put up 50 on Dallas on Sunday night to win that game big. Hammonds 25 of 38, 354 yards, 4 touchdowns, no giveaways. And then Detroit crushed Cleveland on Monday night 28-0. Randall Hansen 31 of 40, 278 yards, and a touchdown. So with all that said, here are my players of the week. Shout out to Dean Hammonds for 4.0 touchdown interception ratio, plus 354 yards. Gezik, as I mentioned, 20 touches, 261 yards, and 3 touchdowns. Phenomenal day from him. James Carter over 200 yards on just 17 carries. Terrence Hoffman of Seattle, 8 catches, 128 yards, 2 scores. Anthony Larry, 3 touchdowns offensively on 184 yards receiving, and a punt return touchdown as well. As for the defensive side of things, 4 sacks for Carlos Bostic of the Rams, 3 sacks for Michael Barrera of the Panthers, part of his 6 total TFLs on the day. Rafael Caceres of the Bears, 4 interceptions to lead them to victory. Adrian Gerner of Atlanta, 7 pass breakups, 2 interceptions, and a forced fumble, all in the single game. And then for Cincinnati, Matt Dwelly, tackle for loss, forced a fumble, and had 2 picks as well. I also got to call out the kickers. Jeffrey Leon of Washington, 5 for 5, including a long of 47, and 3 for 3 on extra points. And then Richard Yob of Tennessee, 5 of 5, including a 51-yarder and an extra point, including the game winner over the Ravens with just seconds left. So congratulations to all of these players on being named my Players of the Week for Week 16. For a quick injury update, most teams are getting healthy in time for the postseason where applicable. We did have a new injury. Christopher Pratt, linebacker for the Vikings, did have a concussion. He is out for the last 2 games of this year. Still out, DeWitt for Dallas with that ACL bruise. Phillip Bell for the Chargers. Jeff Hawley of the Texans. And Stephen Humphries, tackle for the Washington Commanders. All will be out next week, but should be back for the regular season finale. And back in this current week include Buffalo's defensive tackle Daniel Sanchez, Cleveland's rookie guard Blake LaFell is healthy from his foot injury, the Rams guard Hector Faulkner, Vegas's linebacker Brent Zunino has returned from his foot injury, he's good to go, and then tight end Taylor Allen, Seattle's first rounder from last year, recovered from that groin injury. He should be ready to play for the Seahawks as well. So in the AFC, the Steelers have gained some ground on the Browns, and they are on the verge of clinching that division. The teams do go head-to-head in this coming week, so the Steelers can make it easy with a win. Titans and Jaguars are in an interesting position. They meet in Week 18, and that's going to be for the division. We'll talk a bit about it in the next slide, but the winner of that Week 18 game is going to win the division no matter what. Dolphins have officially now won the East, 13-2, tied for the best record in the Sim. The Jets are a strong 10-5 though, and poised for a wild card. Broncos fall to 13-2 after that controversial loss to the Chiefs. However, Broncos have the tiebreaker, so they're still in the number 1 seed. The Chiefs get to 11 wins to clinch a wild card spot for themselves. Raiders are 9-6 and still have control their own destiny for the final wildcard spot in the AFC. So this is how things look. Again, the Broncos and Dolphins are going to be 1-2. Broncos have the head-to-head, as I mentioned, so they control their own destiny. They have both clinched their respective divisions as well. Steelers can clinch the North with a win or a Cleveland loss. I have an asterisk there because, again, they're playing each other next week, so 6 of one, half dozen of the other. But even if Pittsburgh loses head-to-head to the Browns, they have a chance to clinch in Week 18 with a single win. As I mentioned, the AFC South is going to be entirely decided in Week 18 with the head-to-head. Basically, how that works, if Jacksonville wins in Week 18, they have a head-to-head sweep. So them being at 9 wins will win the division. If Tennessee wins, Tennessee won previously. So Tennessee would have the head-to-head sweep if they win in Week 18. And then 9 wins with the sweep would be enough to win the division. If Jacksonville wins that Week 18 game, they get to 9 wins. And the best the Titans can do is 9 wins, and then Jacksonville wins on common opponents. At that point, they will have split their head-to-head series. They will have equal division records. Jacksonville has the better common games. So, all that to be said, the easiest way to think of it is it all comes down to Week 18. No matter what happens, 17, it's Titans versus Jaguars for the AFC South. And that could be a 3 or a 4 seed, depending on what the Steelers do. Chiefs have clinched a wild card, as I said, with 11 wins. They're going head-to-head with the Jets next week. If they win, they will have locked up the 5 seed, and they can do whatever they want. Week 18, rest, prepare for the playoffs. They'll be locked in if they win. The Jets have also clinched a wild card. They have those 8 conference wins are assuring them at least a spot in the playoffs if it came to tiebreakers over the Jaguars and Chargers. So the Jets are in and will have a chance to play the Chiefs to try to move up in the seeding. Vegas, as we said, in the lead for the final wildcard spot. They could conceivably clinch this week if they win and both the Jags and Chargers lose. Barring that, it'll come down to Week 18. On the NFC side of things, the Packers are a game up on the Lions and have the head-to-head sweep, so they are on the verge of clinching. Panthers have long since clinched the South. Everyone else is at 6 wins. Commanders are on the verge of clinching the East. The Cowboys are in position for a wild card. And then Rams have clinched the West, and it is the Seahawks hanging on currently with the tiebreakers over the Bears. They have a tough 2 games ahead of them to close that out. So Rams and Panthers have clinched their division. Washington and Green Bay are on the verge of clinching theirs with a win. Dallas is in the playoffs. Dallas has head-to-head over both Seattle and Chicago. So 10 wins is enough for Cowboys to be guaranteed in. Detroit does not have those tiebreakers, so they are a single win or tie away. They need to win or have either Seahawks or Bears lose. Any one of those scenarios would assure the Lions a playoff spot. Seattle has the tiebreaker over the Bears. That's the conference record. So if Seattle wins and the Bears lose, Seattle would be guaranteed that last spot. But Seattle has 2 tough games remaining. They've got to go against, I believe it's Carolina and then the LA Rams. Both teams have a lot to play for, so 2 tough games for the Seahawks. Meanwhile, the Bears have won 6 in a row, so it very well could come down to Week 18 for that number 7 seed. Okay, with all of that review, as I said, we're going to go into our second week looking at extensions. The window is open. A lot of teams are participating. So what we're going to be showing today, again, are values that have been proposed. I have some details for full contracts or AAVs, which I will share, but mostly we're looking at value of the total contract, which of course the dollars can change based on how much of it is bonus, what the exact duration is. But we can see what teams have offered, what players have accepted, and what negotiations are still ongoing. So on the offensive side of things, Miami is bringing Kenny White back. He'll be 31 next year, but he's got an extension for the Dolphins to presumably finish his career with them. The big news from this week, Christian Sinnock agreeing to terms with the Vikings. Now, the interface said the value was 37. The dollars they shared were at 42. So I'm not sure. We'll have to get those exact numbers. Minnesota is quoting us a 4-year contract for $64 million with $28 million guaranteed, and it's a flat $16 million a year. Though again, that was suggested a higher value than what we see here, so we'll get those exact numbers. But regardless, a big payday for Sinnock that puts him in the top 5 of the league by value. He'll only be 29 next year, so already at an 84 overall. Lots of room to improve. Vikings think they can get more out of him. So yeah, 4-year extension for Sinnock. Big payday for him. Also on the offense, we have a lot of offensive linemen. The big ones here: Quincy Weil of Jacksonville agreeing to a value 26 contract that puts him top 5 among true guards. So a big contract for the 79 overall guard for the Jaguars. And then Christian Barraclough of the New Orleans Saints, absolute stud UDFA they picked out, had a 2-year contract. That's up. So even though he is only 23, he's looking at extension. That's a value 28, which is, we have the exact dollars here, $53.6 million over 5 years with $28.6 million guaranteed. That puts him 8th among starting tackles by value. But given his age and overall, even that's a pretty good deal, I gotta say. Getting him for under $11 million a year, tied down on a 5-year deal, I think that's a win for the Saints. And he is, as of right now, officially a guard. He's been playing tackle all year. So his expectation was based on offensive tackle, and I expect he'll get that secondary next year. So already he's playing with an out-of-position malice that will go away next year, and he's going to be even better. So yeah, big money for Barraclough, but I think honestly, savings for the Saints in the long term. Also want to call out Elijah Rader for the Texans. A 22 value is also a very team-friendly deal, I think, for them. Don't have exact dollars, but for an 84 overall tackle who was a former number 1 overall pick, who was the first draft pick ever in the NFL, I think that's a really team-friendly deal for the Texans. On the defensive side, we have Matt McCants and Garrison Hose signing new contracts. Gordon Diallo signing a long-term extension with the Jets. The big name here, Alejandro Rua, was the only Pro Bowl eligible player whose 5th-year option was turned down. Seattle turned down his option, wanted to sign him to a long-term deal, and they got what they were looking for with this value. 26 is pretty good for Rua. That's top 10. But again, he was a top 5 pick 4 years ago, and so now they've locked him down long-term, 77 overall, just 25 years old. That's I think long-term value there for Seattle. And then defensively, Bruce Puello, Matt Bass, Leonard Vaughn, Sergio Collins, all signing long-term deals. The biggest one here is Matt Bass. 27 total value puts him third overall among safeties, behind just Darrell Lee of the Rams and Calvin Preston of the Bears. Also, when I'm doing these rankings, I'm not counting any expiring contracts. So, like, I'm not counting Johnny Wynn's contract here because he's on the last year of that and that's about to go away. And of course, some of these could be surpassed by free agency. We don't know everything, but based on the non-expiring contracts that will be in place next year, Bass is currently third with that 27, again behind Darrell Lee and Calvin Preston. Sergio Collins is currently fourth among free safeties with this 22 value, only 25 years old, 74 overall. Tennessee likes what they have in him. And then Eagles elated that Vaughn signed for a very team-friendly deal. He's a 91 overall. His demands were lowered because he's going to be 30 next year. So clock could be ticking there. But still, Eagles said to have presumably several years of very high performance of Vaughn for a pretty nice deal. As for negotiations that are still ongoing, not sure if this is the first or second pass on either of these, but Jamie Ramirez of the Dolphins is going to be 31 next year, looking for a little bit more than what the Dolphins are willing to offer, at least in this round. And then Danny Morand, wide receiver for the Patriots, only 69 overall, but also only 25, looking for a bit of a bigger payday there as well. Then on the offensive side, Ryan Dunn, former first-round pick, passing up on a 22. Dallas, who had some terrible luck on re-signings, two big linemen there with Trevor Morris, and then the 92 overall Kevin Escobar, who is going to be 31, but Dallas wants to get a few more good years out of him. But he passed up there the first attempt. And then Detroit's tackle Tim Guerra, 70 overall. 23 is very nice. Again, remember that Raiders signed for 22 and Barraclough only signed for 28. So Dunn and Guerra holding out on those 22s and 23s. Definitely, playing that market and trying to get the most out of their current teams. And then finally, on the defensive side, we have yet another Dallas rejection, Michael DeWitt, turned out a 24 value contract. I got to think the Cowboys are ready to open the bag for him after losing an edge rusher last year to free agency. Although that last edge rusher, went and got $14 million a year in the free market to the Saints. So maybe DeWitt is thinking about that. So even though this is a deal that would put him 10th among edge rushers, maybe he's looking for even more. We'll see what Dallas does with that. Preston Miller for the Saints, looking for some more money from them. And then Christian Pilardi of the Eagles, passing up their second offer, 71 overall. They offered him 21, which is getting close to like Jehu Ginn money. But he's still holding out, and maybe that's what he's looking at. Maybe that's the kind of contract. I think Ginn signed for maybe 22. It seemed like a really, really big discount at the time, but maybe that's what Pilardi is looking for. So Eagles have one more chance next week. We'll see what they do with it. We'll see if they decide to tag Pilardi, if they don't make it. Lots of options still for them. On the defensive side, more Dallas names, Steven Matuk and Jorge Mendez, both looking for more than the Cowboys were willing to offer on first. Mendez going to be 29 next year, is 83 overall, big free safety, holding out for big money. Speaking of, Manish Watson is currently 5th in value, was looking for a new contract at about 20 that probably would have kept him around 5th in that top 5 conversation. And since Watson's going to be 31 next year, that's a pretty good deal. But maybe he saw that young Matt Bass just got 27, and he's trying to keep up with the Joneses, or the Basses in this case. Again, Bass is like 5 years younger, so I don't know that he's going to get that. But maybe that's what's keeping him from this accepting the 20 value offer that the Packers put in front of him. Ramon Fry for Houston and Robert Kennedy of Tennessee also passing up offers for their teams. They will continue to negotiate through next week. And as news comes in next week, of course, we will report all of those on the SimNFL show. And next week's games are week 17, again, our penultimate week of the season. But the way things are shaking out, even though a lot of playoff berths have been clinched, a lot of seeding is still up for grabs. So a lot of big games to watch. Thursday night, we start things off with Philadelphia at Tampa Bay. Moncrief versus Kingery on Thursday night. And then at noon, we have Kansas City at the New York Jets. The current 5 and 6 seeds fighting to either clinch that 5 seed if you're Kansas City or to take it away if you're the Jets. Both of them bound for the postseason, though, and getting ready for a tune-up against each other. They're in the AFC. Also in the early slot, we've got Cleveland at Pittsburgh. Cleveland still grasping at straws, trying to get a playoff berth or at least get to 500. We'll need to get to Pittsburgh, in Pittsburgh. And then the afternoon, Detroit at Dallas. Two wild card teams battling for seeding and trying to get everything game plan just right in time for the playoffs. So they will go in the afternoon. Sunday night, Carolina is at Seattle. Again, Seattle desperately trying to hang on to that number 7 spot and get their first playoff appearance in franchise history, but they'll have to go through Carolina. At least they are hosting them in Seattle. See if the 12th man can help them out with that. And then Monday night, Tennessee is at New England. Again, Tennessee's division hopes all rest in Week 18. So we'll see what they do. New England, presumably still in line for that number 1 pick. So we'll see how both teams decide to approach this game, which kind of means nothing and kind of means everything, at least for the Patriots. So we shall see. But that'll be in front of us on Monday night. Hope you tune in for all of those games next weekend. And that is everything I have for this edition of the SimNFL show. Thank you, as always, so much for coming and watching. And as I say to all users in all of our sims, good luck and have fun.